Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Lazar. I will be your presenter today on today's presentation on health and safety in the workplace. Before I start, let me make myself a bit more comfortable by sitting down and joining you guys here. There are only a few of us, so you might be a bit more pleasant this way. Okay, welcome again. First of all, let me thank you both for making your way to central London to attend on a Monday morning. Please rest assured that I too am a human being and completely understand that there are a multitude of other places that you would rather be at this moment in time. Therefore, I'll try to be as engaging as possible and will aim to answer any of your questions along the way. So if at any time you may feel that you don't understand something, please do not hesitate to ask, and I'll be happy to help by all means. Now, one more ground rule I'd like you to comply with, if possible, is to turn your mobile phones on silent throughout the presentation so as to minimise any disruption. I'm sure that we can all agree that today's theme, while seemingly bureaucratic, is nonetheless incredibly important, and I'd like to make sure that you can all follow very clearly. As I'm sure that you're both aware, in today's presentation we'll be talking about health and safety in the workplace, as mentioned a moment ago. We will look at the different health and safety procedures that you, as line managers of a professional enterprise, will be expected to implement within your departments in order to ensure the health and safety of your employees. But in order to break my Shakespearean monologue, for a moment I'd like to give you both an opportunity to speak and share your experiences. Now, you both work in similar departments and organisations, so I'm sure you've met each other before, know each other very well. However, this will be a good opportunity for me to get to know you better. So tell me, what current policies in your organisation would you say are the most important when it comes to office health and safety?
Well, I'd like to think that the multiple safety facilities that we hold in our offices make me feel safe. We have several fire extinguishers, smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms on every floor. And we hold fire drills every so often, which requires us to gather outside the building in a timely fashion and manner as possible. Our firm also provides protection to the work premises. We have multiple gates and fences surrounding the building, which makes it harder for any non-employee to force their way in if ever there were a break-in attempt. On top of that, we have installed fob entry points on almost every door separating different departments, meaning that everything, including our work, is kept safe.
Well, it is very reassuring indeed to see that your organisation does so much to keep you safe, Michael. And Natalie, what would you say keeps you safe? What makes you feel safe in your organisation?
Well, firstly, I completely agree with Michael on his points raised. I also think that the company has provided many physical elements to keep us safe from harm. Additionally, I like the fact that they have provided us with multiple emergency rendezvous points in case of fires to ensure that staff are kept safe. Luckily, such emergencies have not yet occurred, so we have never needed to follow such procedure. But the very absence of these emergencies makes me feel even more comfortable knowing that our employers are doing what they can to ensure that we are kept safe.
Well, that's another excellent point that you raised, Natalie. By law, any professional organisation needs to cater to the safety of their staff in the best way possible, and in many cases will need to meet all their national standards. You both give credible examples of health and safety in the workplace, and it's obvious that you were both clear on the general principles of the topic. However, going back to our initial objective, today we'll be assessing what legal procedures that you as heads of your departments will need to ensure are present in your place of work to secure the safety of yourselves and of your employees. Now, in order to do this, we'll be focusing on a central piece of national legislature that will highlight the necessary regulations that need to be in place in any organisation. Then we will follow up with a few activities in the form of some fictional workplace scenarios in order to hopefully provide you with a bit more context in regards to the material that we're covering. As mentioned, the Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974 requires employers to provide a safe and healthy environment, which includes the following points listed on these handouts right here. I'm about to give that to you now. Have a look at them briefly. Now, they include, as for the first point, a safe system of work, so the methodology and manner by which work is conducted and organised. Secondly, a safe place of work, creating a danger-free zone and environment allowing employees to work without the prospect of injury or fear. So, pretty straightforward so far, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I think we've covered most of these. Thirdly, a safe and competent people included, safe and competent people included in the workplace, including provision of adequate recruitment methods, ensuring that the individuals being employed will not create a hostile environment. Now, this is a deceptively important point, as employers can be also held responsible for the actions of their employees and staff. So you must take extra care when you implement this point. Be very, very careful. Fourthly, carrying out risk assessments to home in on any potential risks in the workplace and taking steps to eliminate and control these risks. Again, a very, very crucial point. Remember, your obligations will expand to incorporate detailed safety checks and assessments every few months to set a safe workspace for all employees in your given department. With the emergence of any dangers, you are expected to act and rectify these threats in a timely and safe manner. Now, these are points that you'll probably already have included in your managerial approach already, but they are nonetheless incredibly important and worth stressing on again. Next up, fully informing workers of any potential hazards associated with any work, process or activity, including providing instruction, supervision and training. Bit of a mouthful there, but I'll do my best to explain it. Again, a very important point that you as line managers must adhere to. You must inform all employees of the risks, existential or potential, that they can expect in their work. For instance, any employees dealing with lethal chemicals at the workplace must be informed of the dangers, however self-evident, so as to ensure that the workers take steps to avoid being injured. This, of course, links closely to the above-mentioned point on your own vicarious liability for the injury of a member of staff. Okay, next up we have appointing a competent person to deal with a health and safety protocol, such as a head of health and safety to oversee day-to-day safety management and liaise with your staff. So most professional workplaces will have a single person that is responsible for all issues associated with the health and safety within the department itself. As line managers, you will need to think about installing a professional to carry out inspections and cater to these requirements. And if no such person already exists, then by all means in your department, you may need to train an available staff member to fill this position in, or even outsource them externally. The penultimate point, consulting with workplace safety representatives. If a union is formed, then you as line managers may potentially need to set up and attend a workplace committee if it is requested by at least 2 representatives. So it's by law something you must adhere to. And finally, providing adequate safety facilities for employees at work. Again, pretty self-evident. This ties in closely with what you mentioned, Mike. Providing safety equipment such as fire extinguishers, smoke and CO2 alarms, fire exits, first aid kits, and perhaps even an on-site doctor, depending on the nature of the firm. These requirements are probably the essentials in most companies, and I'm assuming you both agree as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these are the main points that we've been discussing. Now, are we following the material so far? Is there anything that doesn't make sense to either of you? Be free to mention anything you'd like.
No, it all seems quite straightforward to me.
Yes, actually, I was wondering if you could explain a bit more about the vicarious liability of line managers you mentioned. It's a little concerning thinking that we could be held liable for something even if it was no fault of our own. Surely it wouldn't just be to accuse an employer of carelessness or fault of an employee.
That's a very good point, Natalie, and thank you for bringing it up. We are about to look at a few scenarios that I am hoping will shed some light as to the context of indirect manager liability in a second. Still, it is reassuring that you're following so keenly, and I know now what I need to clarify. Let's have a look at a few of these scenarios here that I have. So there are 2 scenarios I'm going to go through now in a second. Don't worry, I'm going to let you keep these handouts. Now, in the first fictional examples, we'll be looking at individuals within different organisations and their experiences within the workplace. Once we go through each example, we'll discuss the presence or omission of any important health and safety aspects from the ones previously highlighted on the first sheet. Please both feel free to make any notes on the sheets or in your notebooks, as this exercise may be very useful in helping you recognise any further hazards in your own departments. Michael, why don't you start us off with the first example?
Okay, Anton, a young graduate just starting its first position at Global Tech, a telecommunications firm, arrives on his first day and is greeted at reception by his line manager, along with a few other new recruits. He feels excited to start his position as a trainee sales representative and receives his briefing from the manager, after which the group is taken on a tour of the firm where safety protocol is discussed by their guide, who pinpoints the available facilities, including fire extinguishers and blankets located on every floor. He notices that a specific area has been cordoned off, and upon inquiring with the guide, is told that a pipe had burst, causing water to leak onto the floor, requiring it to be sectioned from staff until cleared. When he asked how long the area would be sectioned, the line manager informed him that it was uncertain, as it had been discussed amongst the department board before it was clear what course of action was likely to be taken. He also realised that a request from staff to form an employee safety committee was put on hold by management due to a departmental business conference assessing annual profits.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Now, can either of you locate any present or missing safety procedures from the scenario? Again, feel free to revert back to your first handouts or highlight them.
They obviously don't have a safety representative in the department, which makes it difficult to manage such issues. Also, they've delayed forming an employee committee, which could land the line manager in deep water.
Yes, but on the positive side, we can see that they have provided a safe environment by immediately blocking off the flooded area in order to prevent staff from getting injured by slipping. This implies, surely, that there was a proper risk assessment conducted?
Yes, spot on, well done to the both of you. You've correctly pointed out the present and missing safety procedures in the scenario. Now, this is an interesting one as it shows how tricky and deceptive it can seem to implement all the procedures at once. Where it may appear that the department had done something to provide a safe working environment, they haven't catered to the upkeep of safety by installing a committee or even appointing a health and safety individual to manage these issues properly. Now, let's have a look at another one. Natalie, why don't you start us off this time and give Michael a chance to catch his breath?
Okay, Gabrielle has been working at Alpha Flask, a pharmaceutical company, for 7 years making medicine. In the last 2 years, she was assigned with several trainees under her tutelage. Being in a very hazardous environment, one of her old colleagues had been appointed as a safety officer in charge of assessing any potential dangers that may be found in the working environment so as to prevent accidents. Gabrielle always made sure that any laboratory equipment, including the right tools to work, were always present in any given moment should they be required by her trainees. Furthermore, every piece of equipment was routinely checked every few months in order to make sure that they were fit for purpose and that they passed safety standards. This made the trainees feel at ease and ensured that they were able to perform to the best of their capabilities. A few weeks ago, however, one of the trainees was fusing together a handful of chemical ingredients to create a remedial hair lotion but had accidentally opened a bottle of highly reactive rubidium substance, mistaking it for another chemical element, causing a violent reaction to nearly blind him. Several bottles containing highly toxic elements were not labelled correctly, leading to the mistake, and also caused a few other completed products that were sold to customers to cause them serious injury. The chemical reaction was so violent that the trainee was severely injured and nearly lost an eye. Both the safety officer and Gabrielle were suspended for questioning.
Okay, very unfortunate, isn't it? Now, how many safety issues can you spot in this instance? Remember to use your first handout again, and feel free to ask me if anything is uncertain.
Well, right from the start, we can see that they've appointed a safety officer to monitor the premises and carry out the risk assessments. Though after that accident in the last part of the scenario, I'm guessing that the officer may have quite a lot to account for.
Very good. Very good, Natalie.
Yes, quite. There's also evidence that they provided safe and accessible equipment, as evidenced by the provision of the necessary tools and machinery, and the fact that this equipment was regularly monitored to ensure that it was safe to use.
Yes, and I think it's also safe to assume that in doing so, they ensured that, at least to an extent, there was a safe system to work in, and that the trainees were able to carry out their obligations with relative ease owing to the efficient equipment. But on the other hand, it seems that a big problem was the lack of proper instructions from the line manager, who was not present to assist the trainee with the risky chemical composition he was working on. So a clear absence of proper instruction and supervision to trainees is clearly evident as well.
Yes, and we can also see that the failure to label the bottle resulting to the violent chemical reaction was ultimately a failure to provide a safe environment. Also, what's really worrying is that certain toxic products were released to the public, causing injury, which is probably the most catastrophic breach of safety and a serious blow to the company's public image.
Okay, excellent, Natalie. Now stop there for a moment. Can you tell me what the repercussions the injury to customers may have on any of the company representatives? Now this ties in closely with your question on vicarious liability earlier.
Oh yes, I think I can see where this is going. So the trainee will be in the firing line because of the error, but ultimately Gabrielle, as a line manager, will be held responsible as well, as she was his superior and was meant to be managing him.
Exactly, well done. This is a clear breach of the second safety requirement on your list, which caters to the inclusion of competent staff members in the workplace. Now, as previously mentioned, this is a very important point as it requires more responsibility than meets the eye. It holds all senior staff members accountable, ensuring that they are not only recruiting competent staff members that will work safely preventing injury to others, but it is also requires that they are managed and monitored carefully, as they are, after all, under the responsibility of all seniors. Well done again to the both of you. You've correctly identified pretty much all of the present health and safety requirements from the two scenarios. Again, this exercise is meant to test your observance and ultimately challenge your awareness of the legal safety requirements, that by law need to be implemented in the workplace. I think you've done quite well so far. Do you also feel the same?
Yes, I think so. I think when the Health and Safety at Work Act is dissected into the individual requirements, it's a lot easier to understand.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for clarifying the point on vicarious liability.
Fantastic. Again, feel free to stop me if you're uncertain of anything, and I'll gladly clarify. Now, in the second part of the presentation, we'll be looking at a particularly important safety procedure, and one that every enterprise, no matter the size, must by law incorporate into its practice. Now, can you guess what that is?
Maybe fire safety procedures?
You're on the right track, Michael, well done. It ties into fire safety, but it's actually evacuation procedures, so a bit of a terminological difference there. A clear evacuation procedure will provide a safe method of clearance in an organisation in case of an emergency, such as a fire, for instance. They require very careful planning and detailed risk assessment and analysis on the premises must be carried out to determine the correct evacuation procedures. Therefore, it is absolutely crucial they are implemented correctly, as often they are the sole factor responsible for saving thousands of lives in a large organisation. Now, I'd like to start off by playing you a short video on evacuation procedures that I hope will highlight the essentials and give you a good idea of what you, as line managers, must undertake in your departments to ensure these criteria are met. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the overhead projector, but luckily we do have a laptop available, so I'll just prepare that for you. If you'd just like to click on the mouse wheel just to get it started.
Nobody ever goes to work thinking that a fire or other workplace emergency will happen today. Unfortunately, it occurs more often than you might imagine. Every year, workplace fires and explosions alone injure more than 5,000 workers and kill over 200. If it did happen today at your workplace, would you be ready? In normal circumstances, employees use designated employee entrances and exits to enter and leave their building. But in the event of an emergency, your regular exit might not be the quickest or safest way out. Take a moment and look around your immediate workplace for the nearest emergency exit door. All doors that open directly to the outside must be marked with illuminated ULC 924 listed exit signs. These signs can be either electrically powered or photoluminescent, which require no electricity at all. If you cannot locate your nearest exit door at a glance, look for any pathway to exit marking or path marking signage in your area. Pathways must be clearly marked every 100 feet from the actual exit, with a sign directing you to that exit door. They can also inform you of which way not to go. All doors or passageways along a pathway that could be mistaken for an exit should be marked with a sign saying "Not an exit," or with a sign that clearly identifies its use. An unexpected emergency situation could abruptly cut off all electricity in your facility. Glow-in-the-dark tapes, signs, and floor markers are extremely effective in marking pathways, stairways, and door frames in low or no light situations. They can also be the difference between life and death during a fire emergency. In a fire, thick, noxious smoke can seriously hinder your ability to see path marking signage placed at eye level or above. Glow tapes, arrows, and floor markers placed at floor level will light your way out. Once outside, you need to move as quickly as possible to your facility's predetermined emergency evacuation area. Once there, report to your supervisor right away to let them know that you made it out safely. Do not leave. Your absence might lead others to believe that you're still inside the building, and it could possibly result in the injuries or deaths of those that could be sent in to rescue you. Having a thorough emergency evacuation plan is vital to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone in your facility. You can find all of the exit and evacuation products seen in this video and many more online today at www.seton.ca.
Okay, let me just turn that off. Alright. Okay, now this video highlights the essential evacuation procedures that most companies must adhere to when evacuating their premises for various reasons. Now, the video suggests a particular hazard as a cause of the evacuation. I assume we can all see what that particular hazard is.
Fire.
Yes, a fire hazard.
Absolutely. Now, although this is perhaps the most common reason for an evacuation of an organisation, it is important to note that it isn't the only reason. Reasons for evacuating vary and can include the spillage of hazardous substances, as we discussed in our previous scenario, actually. If you're working in a chemical factory, for instance, a public safety threat. Now, this has become increasingly important with the risk of terrorism in recent years, unfortunately. And in the rare instance, a natural disaster, although these are particularly scarce in the UK, very luckily I should add. Needless to say, when an emergency occurs, the evacuation of your organisation or department is not something you should take lightly. As expected, your primary concern, at least in your case as line managers, is getting your employees and any other people out of the premises and to a safe location. Essentially, any organisation would need to work closely with their fire and police departments in order to come up with a coherent evacuation plan and regularly practice this procedure so that employees can become familiar with it, fire drills and the like. Of course, I cannot provide you with the instructions as to how you are to implement this procedure into your company's practice, as that's something that you do at your discretion. But I can nonetheless provide the essential steps of a general evacuation plan, which will hopefully give you an indication as to what you must do. I have a final handout here which breaks down the main steps in an evacuation plan, which I'll pass on to you now. So if you look at the sheet, we can see the steps are: 1, safely stop working. So you must ensure that your team are aware that they must stop all work immediately upon an alarm going off. Absolutely nothing takes precedent in this situation. However, measures should be taken in advance by heads of department, such as yourselves, that will make sure that any sensitive equipment is automatically shut down in an emergency for further safety. Now, of course, HR can help you with that as well. Leave building through the nearest exit sign. It's the next step. In cases of emergencies, it is paramount that no stairway or hallway is blocked during your evacuation. You must make sure that there is an emergency exit doorway in close proximity to any workspace, allowing easy access by all employees. Don't forget that you must cater to those of limited mobility as well, so the disabled. Don't forget them. Next, report to the nearest designated assembly area, again, where you can all gather. There needs to be an assembly point where you can all gather with your team. Ensure that you can perform a head count and report any missing individuals, if this is the case, identifying any emergency responders or notifying any emergency responders, such as the police or the fire department, of any sensitive equipment or animals left in the building. And the final step, wait for instructions from emergency responders. Finally, you must remain within the designated assembly point with your team and ensure that no one re-enters the premises until expressly permitted by the emergency services present. Again, very, very crucial point to look out for. Don't let anyone leave unless specifically instructed by the police or fire department. I'm assuming that you must by now have a general understanding of the emergency procedures in your own organisations. Would it be safe to assume that they are fairly similar to the ones we've just provided?
Yes, they're pretty much identical. They mention all the necessary stages of an evacuation plan, but it also goes on to stress the importance of providing facilities for the disabled. We are line managers, so we wouldn't necessarily be expected to provide this ourselves. Surely it would be expected of the HR department.
Yes, Natalie, I agree with you. However, you nonetheless have a responsibility to your workers, so it is incredibly important and useful to know this information in advance, so that you can raise it with your HR departments should you notice that such procedures are missing.
I also think they resemble the same essential evacuation procedures that we have in our own firm. I'd actually like to be able to provide this information to the employees in my department. Would I be able to download this information perhaps from online?
Naturally, Michael. Absolutely, yes. In fact, I'm glad that you asked. I will send you both an email with links to all the information we've covered today. It will feature the option to download the sheets that I handed out to you already, as well as other useful information on health and safety in the workplace, which you will be able to pass on to your colleagues and employees to inform them as well. Now, we are just coming to the end of the presentation, but I would like to first check if there is anything that you wish to discuss in the material that we have covered today. Any further questions?
No, I'm good, thanks.
No, I'm also pretty clear on everything. Thank you.
Fantastic, excellent. Well, we have now reached the end of our presentation virtually. To summarise, today we looked at the key health and safety procedures that by law need to be attended to in all organisations. Line managers like yourselves will need to ensure that you comply with the following key principles highlighted under the Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974. Let's have a look at them again. Remember to refer to the first handout that I gave you. So they are a safe system of work. So work must be conducted in a safe manner by all staff. A safe place of work. So a fear and danger-free zone must be created within your department to provide a safe working environment for staff. Safe and competent people included in the workplace. That's to ensure that staff are well behaved and respectful towards their colleagues and have the necessary skills to work without causing danger to themselves or others. Next up is carrying out risk assessments to hone in on any potential risks in the workplace and taking steps to limit and control these risks. Fully informing workers of any potential hazards associated with any work process or activity, including providing instruction, supervision and training. Appointing a competent person to deal with a health and safety protocol, such as a head of health and safety to oversee day-to-day safety management and liaise with staff. Consulting with workplace safety representatives, and finally providing adequate safety facilities for employees at work. We also looked at the importance of installing an effective evacuation plan within organisations and the responsibility that you have towards your staff as managers in such situations. We've determined that a clear and well thought out evacuation plan needs to be in place in every professional organisation in order to ensure the well-being of staff and ultimately to prevent being held liable under the law if such procedures were missing. I'll be sending you both an email to follow up on all that we have covered in this session shortly in more detail. Now, my email will provide you with the access to the handouts as mentioned that you have received today, along with the link to the mentioned Health and Safety at Work Act, where you will be able to follow up in more detail on any further legal clauses and use them as guidance in your professional practice. I hope that you both take away the most important lesson for today. Can anyone tell me what that is?
I think it's the procedures that must be implemented into our workspace, ensuring the safety of our staff and ourselves.
Good, that's the objective, Michael. Well done. But can anyone actually tell me the lesson that we'll take away with you today? It's a bit of a trick question there, sorry.
How to work safely for life.
Excellent. How to work safely for life. Well done. Any other questions before we wrap up?
Very
No.
informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your attention today, and I wish you a safe and prosperous career.
Thank
you.
you.